I like that, the warriors of the flame. Now, when I was, I think it was very early in ministerial school, one of my instructors, or my senior minister, somebody called me a spiritual warrior. And at first I kind of bristled at that moniker, because I thought, warrior, oh, that, I want to be nice. But you know what, now I get that was a compliment. I'm a spiritual warrior, and warrior is not just about war. Warrior is really about being a champion, a steward, a custodian, custodian of the flame, a champion of the flame. The one, what are those bellows? Stokes the flame, yeah, fans the flame, there you go. So, thank you for that. That's a great song. And it's a great way to think of a word that usually, for folks like us, we tend to bristle at a little bit. I love to give you words that we usually bristle at and with a different perspective of thinking about them. I love to do that for myself. So I want you to think about this now, speaking of perspective. Think about this, that to get something that you have never had, you have to do something that you've never done. Right? It's like, oh yeah. And I love it when people say, well, I've never done that before. I couldn't go get that job, or I couldn't go do that thing because I've never done that before. Well, newsflash, everything that you've ever done, you've never done before you did it. When you start to think of things in that perspective, you're going, hey, wait a minute, I can do anything then. Because there's always got to be the first time, and we know that you never forget your first time. So, anything, if you want something that you've never had, you're going to have to do something you've never done. And also think about this. Notice that the first time that you do things, you're probably not an expert at it, right? So the first time that you decide, I'm going to run now, I'm going to get healthy and run, you're probably not going to be in the Olympics next week, in Rio. We need to pray for Rio. Just put that in the back of your hopper. We need to be in prayer for Rio. But you're not, anything you do the first time is probably not going to be really great. You'll probably trip up a little bit, make some mistakes. All the way back to when you first decided that you would walk instead of crawl. You fell down a lot. You didn't do it really well right away. So that's okay. So when the universe has you trip up or takes something from you, don't think of it as the universe punishing you, but rather it's merely opening up your hands and your minds and your souls to a greater possibility. It's like, wow, if I can even cruise this far and fall down and get up, think how much further I'm going to cruise the next time, right? So or a Buddhist thing, fall down 7 times, get up 8. Always get up another time. So trust that this is true, that the universe is always giving you gifts and pushing you and prodding you and poking you forward, pulling you forward into greater possibilities and greater expressions. So think about this, trust in this, that the urging of spirit will never take you where the grace of God will not support and protect you. So go ahead and take some risks. Step out and do something you've never done before. And guess what? Then you can put that on your resume. Oh yeah, been there, done that. All right? So if you do that, and if you listen to these clues from the universe, you'll be listening for the call of your soul. Listen for the call of your soul, because in there, it's not just taking little baby steps or trying new things. You'll actually find what is yours uniquely to be and to do. Listen to that. Let your soul speak to you. And then don't forget to listen. Too much of the time we're busy speaking to our soul instead of actually listening to what it has for us. Spirit speaks to us through that center of our being, through our soul, through that soul awakening. And spirit seeks to reveal its own wholeness and perfection in and through and as us. It's the only way it can be revealed, is in and through and as its own creation. So the passion of experiencing our own authenticity is the passion of experiencing that flame that we've just fanned into something pretty spectacular. A little tiny spark fanned into a flame of passion and power and inspiration and creativity. That's our authenticity. And it's what fuels the power of our expression as a human being that is expressing not just our humanness, but expressing our spirit. Spirit itself. Spirit is breath. Did you know that? In spirit, inspiration, in breath of spirit. Breathe it in generously. It's free. It's free, and there's an unlimited supply. Now, I want to teach you a little bit about the 6 P's of full self-expression, coming from that center of our being, from that soul, from that spirit. The 6 P's of full self-expression are passion, purpose, presence, power, path, and promise. So, passion. And say that fast one time, which you will not witness here today. I'm not going to even try. So, passion, got it, okay. Purpose, presence, power, path, and promise. So, passion. Passion is that energetic clue of who you are, who you come to be, and what you come to do out of that beingness. That's passion. It's enthusiasm. And enthusiasm comes from entheos, which means in spirit. Isn't that a great word? I love that. Ever since I learned that, I love that word, enthusiasm, entheos, in spirit. Purpose. Purpose is our reason or our desire for even being in this human form, to be in this expression. It's how we give of ourselves, of our service. It's what brings meaning to our lives. Presence. Presence means to be centered and infilled with spirit. To be centered, present, infilled with the very presence of spirit itself. That is what gives us our most authentic experience and expression as an individual and unique being. Power is the energy of action and movement and manifestation. That's the spiritual fire, the flame. That is it. Okay, so that's the power. You know, sometimes, we get a little namby-pamby in this New Thought teaching. When they say power, that's a bad word. Power is a great word. Power. Power. Power is very spiritual. Path. Path is the direction of the flow of that passion and purpose and power. And spirit guides us in the path that puts us on the path of our passion and our purpose and our presence. And then promise, finally, is living in and as the heart of God. It's experiencing heaven on earth and the experience of fulfillment to the point of overflow. So, passion, purpose, presence, power, path, and promise. Okay, I'm going to have you say that with me. Yeah, not fast. Ready? Passion, purpose, presence, power, path, promise. All right. Remember the 6 P's. It'll get you where you're going. It'll get you to that place where you've never done something before, but now you will. So, to create the life that you were born to be the presence of, to create the life that you love to live, requires that we move into what I call I am creation. I am creation. I for intention. We set an intention. A for affirmation and attention. So we give it our attention. That intention gets our attention and affirmation. And then the M is for manifestation. We're moving into that action of manifestation now. I am creation. A guy named Foster C. McClellan said that, he said, create the kind of self you will be happy to live with all of your life. I think about relationships and marriages and all that stuff, and it's so easy to get away from those if you feel the need. And sometimes we feel that need pretty casually. But guess who you never get away from? Wherever you go, there you are. Following me again. It's like this morning, I got a new little foster kitty, adopted kitty. Thank you to Lori Ballard for looking out for a kitty for me. And this morning when I left, she was doing exactly what I'm telling you not to. She was chasing her tail and going around in circles, and not realizing that this was highly unproductive. You know, and in a sense, she's trying to get away from whatever that was chasing her. You know, so we try to do that. So make sure that you create the kind of self that you will always be happy to be living with. And it's, you know, it takes a little more presence than you may think in order to do that. Have you ever felt like sometimes you'd like to get away from yourself? Please tell me I'm not the only one. You know, there have been times, I'm trying to get away from her. One of the ways to create that kind of life or that kind of person that you want to be with for the rest of your life is to do what brings you joy and energy and a sense of aliveness. That's a person you want to hang with. Make enthusiasm and joy a prerequisite to anything that gets your attention and your energy and your action. Make that a prerequisite. Don't waste your time, energy, and self on things that you're not enthusiastic about. You know, be true to your higher self and to your passionate purpose. Be true to that. The universe will support that, will support what's really true for you. And the reality is it takes more energy for you to be who you're not and do what's not yours to do than it does for you to be who you are and do what is yours to do. Really, that's the hard part. The easy part is be who you truly are. That's the easy part. And nobody else can do it but you. And you're an expert. How cool is that? You can charge money. You think I'm kidding? You can be paid for being your highest self. You can be supported in this universe for being who you truly are. All through ministerial school, practitioner training, ministerial school, I'm praying that one day, when I really grow up, I want to be paid for who I am. And all of my fellow students, Suzi, you're so funny. That'll never happen. I'm going, wow, that's not very affirming. Remind me not to ask you for anything. I don't think that's what we teach. So I kept, praying. I said, no, trust me, one day I will be paid for who I am. And lo and behold, I got through practitioner training, ministerial training, started a church. And the first check I got went, aha, I just got paid for who I am. How cool is that? And ye of little faith, you doubted me. I showed that check to all my students who said, hey, you're so funny. Yeah, not so funny now, right? So you can be paid for who you be. What if that's the new economy, that we get valued and paid for who we paid for and the doingness that arises out of that beingness? I think that would be the coolest economy, and one that has energy and vibrancy and life to it. So the same old widget, and there's nothing wrong with widgets if you're passionate about widgets. But the point is, I believe that if we put our true self into things, they become magnificent. Martin Luther King Jr. said something about, if you're a janitor, be the best janitor on the face of the earth. Put your whole heart and soul into it. If you can't do that, find what you can. Be that. Be passionate about what you're spending your time and energy on. Tap into, listen to the deeper essence, the spirit of who you truly are within. Listen for that. Listen for what passion and purpose resonates within you and is pushing you and prodding you and pulling you and compelling you and inspiring you to express it. Don't keep tamping it down. I've done that. It zaps your spirit. It makes you dead at the soul. When I was at the top of my career, I was at the top of the corporate ladder. I was the highest ranking female in an international company, making lots of money, lots of perks, lots of people listened to me. Well, they pretended to listen to me. I said, well, yeah, we'll do that. And then they wouldn't. But, I had lots of good coming to me. My life looked great from the outside, but people weren't living it from the inside. They weren't living what I was living, which was spiritual bankruptcy. I had a big bank account and no soul. And one day I woke up and I traded it. I had a very small bank account and a big soul. But you'd be amazed how much soul pays for. I haven't lacked, haven't had to go without. And it's a lot easier to manage who you are than a lot of stuff. Where's George Carlin when you need him? He had a great monologue of stuff. All I have to do is mention that. You go, oh, yeah. Listen to that inner being. It's clear and it's loud if you're listening. And there's no need to get any validation or proof from outside. Know and know that you know what you're being called to and who you are. And trust that the living spirit within you is guiding you in the right direction. Carl Jung, I love, this is one of my all-time favorite quotes. Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." Awakens. Awakening always trumps dreaming. Awakening is a constant dream coming to life, over and over and expanding. You know, nurture that inner spark of your true self and fan it into a flame. Be the warrior of the flame. Be the warrior of the flame. That's what we're called to. You know, it brings us enthusiasm and passion and joy and the freedom of full self-expression. How cool to not try to imitate somebody else. How cool not to try to figure out what all the rules are and follow them and touch all the bases and say, "Ooh, I did it. Why do I feel so terrible?" You know, break the rules and just be who you are. Because that's the real rule. That's the real rule. You know, have you ever taken a safe route and put some significant dream aside? Have you ever done that?
Yes.
Yeah. How did that feel? Yeah, it feels pretty yucky, doesn't it? Yeah. You know, I did that with that corporate career. I built and built and built and built. I actually got the call to ministry 10 years before I answered it. Because I thought, oh, you can't be talking to me, be a minister, are you kidding me? But the corporate world, that made sense to my head. So that's what I did, and I developed this very wonderful career. I was very successful. And then one day I did awaken. I didn't dream, but I awakened, and it said, let this go. And I did. I had no clue where I was headed, but I knew that that wasn't it, and I wasn't going to spend any more time and energy on that. And so I simply let it go. And then I kind of went, whoa, what did you just do? And I'm waiting for the shoe to drop, and it never did. And the other shoe never dropped. Just things started opening up, and I started awakening more, and more opportunities for creative self-expression showed up. And guess what? And people paid me. I'm like, wow. In fact, this is kind of funny. The company that I left there, and it was probably the best day that I had working for that company. It was the day that I left. I mean, they were the nicest to me on that day. And I'm like, wow, I should have quit a long time ago. And you know, people that had put knives on my back were being nice. I'm like, cool. So, and within a few weeks, I went back to that company as a consultant, and they ate it up. I mean, everything that I've been telling them for the last 5 years. Suddenly they're like, wow, you're a genius, and they start popping. I'm like, wow, cool, baby, little scratch here. So, it's kind of funny, But the truth is, I may have been saying the same things to them, but I was saying it from somebody I was not. When I said it from who I truly was, they heard it. It's amazing. It's amazing, the miracle of being you, because you're holy and true. You are the warrior of the flame. We could do this whole service just with songs. we should do that sometime. We'll do all songs, and then you'll get the message out of something. Okay, write that down. If that thing that you gave up and you put on hold is still resonating with you, is it still raising your energy when you think of it? Then think of some action you can take to actually move it into your experience, into your reality. Don't make it wait any longer. Take an action today or this week that moves that forward. Stop keeping it on hold. Because when we keep our true self on hold, we cheat not only ourselves but the whole universe of what it is that we truly have to give and to be. And I do believe that the universe supports us most powerfully when we are being authentic, when we are coming from who we truly are. We get tremendous support. When you start stumbling and hitting speed bumps and stuff, it's kind of a clue that maybe you're on somebody else's path, but you're certainly not on yours. There's a reason for those things, for doors being shut and, speed bumps being put in your way, and there's a detour over here. It's like, hey, this should not be that hard to be who you are, right? And it isn't. So, recognize who you've come here to be and what you're called to do out of that center of beingness. And notice how it feels when you do that. Notice how it feels. You feel inspired, you feel pulled, compelled, delighted, alive. Notice the difference. You know, if you feel, like, if your energy is like, you're starting to flatline, that is, the universe never wants to make you miserable. I'm convinced of that. It wants you to be delighted with life so that you can be a delight. Be clear about who it is that you've come to be. And then do that. Do that. Do your being. Do your being. Listen to the guidance of that inner voice and take the action around that guidance that would bring it to life, which allows you to flow free to be. Flow free to be. Flow. Flow. No obstacles. The obstacles come when we're being inauthentic. Mary Hannah Morrissey was one of my mentors as I was coming up through ministerial school. And she came up with this sort of a quick little test that you can use to see if something truly is your dream, your passion, your purpose, your vision, your desire. So this is a little check test. So you can ask yourself, first of all, when you think of this dream or this passion or this purpose or this desire that you think may be calling you, hold it in your mind and in your heart and see where your energy goes. Does it stay the same? Does it go down? Or does it go up? If when you think of this thing, this passion, this dream, this idea, if your energy goes up, that's a clue this may be it for you. Pay attention to that. Second question you ask yourself is, does it require me to stretch and become more fully who I am? Does it require me to stretch more into who I truly am? Letting go of inauthenticity and embracing authenticity. Does it cause me to stretch? If the answer is yes, there's another clue. You're on the right track. Is it in alignment with my core values? The universe would never call you to do something that is out of alignment with your core values. If it's in alignment with your core values, those core values will literally give you energy and buoy you into that next greater yet to be. So there's another clue. The next one is, does it serve not only you, but the greater good? Does it serve others? So would this be something that not only makes your life better, but actually touches other lives in a positive way? Another clue. And does it require you to partner with spirit within you and all around you in order to accomplish this great thing? If so, you answer yes to all of those, go for it. You should leave now and get started. You should go right now and get on. Because, hello, spirit is calling you. Do it. But talk to me about it, because I want to help, I want to support that. I like to be around the energy. Whoa, wake up. I love that energy. So true passion and purpose, by the way, also, you can listen or you can not listen, but I guarantee you there's something in you that is hearing it. There's something that's within you. You can say, oh no, like I did. I said, oh yeah, ministry, that makes no sense to me. Corporate world, yeah, I get that. And I went in that direction. But I'm telling you that your true passion and purpose will not let you go until you say yes. And then it just, it's like on a wave, like those waves in Hawaii, you know, that they surf on. That's what happens. So I tried, you know, you can't not do it. It's one of those kinds of things. It has so much passion and energy for you that you cannot not do it. I tried. I put off ministry for 10 years, had a very successful corporate career, and you know, all along the way, there was almost like this little, I get this little imp on my shoulder. Hey, hey, hello, hey. Not letting me go. I'm like, hey, I'm busy being successful. Hey. It never let me go. And 10 years later, I finally said yes to what I was truly called to. And you know, here's what's interesting. Here's what's interesting. I had so many clues. Well, you know, I'm the kind of person that you can throw a surprise party for and mess up and give clues all along the way. I don't get them. You know, I mean, you could be putting up the party right in front of me and I'd be like, I have no idea what's going on. It's kind of the same thing. Spirit's like, hello, I have a surprise party for you. It's called your life. And I'm like, huh? Hey? You know, I'm merrily going along on my plan. So, the first clue I had was when I was a kid. Ever since I can remember, I was raised Catholic. I wanted to be a priest. I was absolutely certain I was supposed to be a priest, or, well, truth be known, I kind of know Pope. I thought maybe I could start with priest, right? my altar boy brothers were very quick to point out, you can't even be an altar boy. I'm like, but, you know, I always wanted to be a priest. So, you know, all my little friends would kneel down and echo wafers for communion. I was doing the priest thing the whole time. Then, actually, when I got the first really call to ministry, I was actually an adult by this time. And I was in a Science of Mind class, actually. It was the first Science of Mind class, what we now call Foundations. At that time, it was Science of Mind 1. I'm in the class, and the minister that was teaching the class had us do a guided visualization, and then we journaled afterward. And I journaled, and I was shocked by what I wrote down. I just kind of wrote and didn't edit. But I was shocked when I read it, and it was all about becoming a minister. And, you know, it was very vibrant and very vivid in its description, and I was like, whoa, okay, put that away. Which I did for 10 years. I just put that little journal away for 10 years. Then, 10 years later, I'm in another class with a different minister. That minister does a little guided visualization, has this journal afterward, and I'm journaling, and I'm having a deja vu experience. And I'm like, wow, this is very familiar to me. And then I went, wait a minute, I don't think this is a deja vu experience. I think I've done this before. And I wrote down what was in that journal, which was also all about being a minister. I went home and I dug into some boxes and I found that original journal from 10 years before. Opened them both up and they were almost verbatim. Exactly 10 years apart. And that finally got my attention. Then I was like, oh, let's see, clue, when I'm this big, handing out echo wafers. Let's see, again, minister, some sort of ministry. And finally I got, hey! You know, this woman said, hey! Hallelujah! Finally got it. So, you know, most of us have done some of that at one time or another. Stop it. Don't do that anymore. Pay attention, listen. And I love the title of your album. It's never too late to be who you truly are. It is never too late. That was part of your journey. He did all kinds of crazy stuff too that wasn't his, did you? And then finally said, you know what? I'm going to do what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to do music. It's never too late. And it's never too late for any of you. So listen to that. And a good clue, go back to when you were little. I mean, we were brilliant when we were little. We knew stuff that we have worked so hard to erase out of our memory. Let it back in. Pay attention to that little kid that you were. They know some stuff. And if you have trouble doing that, let's get some kids into this center and start pay attention to those kids, because they'll tell you a thing or two too. I'd love it. Here's a vision, here's an intention for you. What if we set the intention that we have so many kids and families in this center that every single one of us, including those who don't have kids or grandkids, could have a child mentor? That's my vision for this center, that every one of us could get a child mentor to remind us of the things that we once knew and have since forgotten or put layers of varnish over. Are you game for that? All right, if you know anybody with kids, that didn't sound very enthusiastic. I like old women. We're talking about enthusiasm. I wore red because we're talking about passion and enthusiasm. So let's get passionate and enthusiastic about getting families and children here, because I'm telling you what, those children will teach you how to live. Because they don't have all the BS restrictions that we have, this belief system restrictions that we have. They don't have that stuff. They leap right into things. There's nothing I love more than going to a ski resort and you see these little kids, they're this high, barreling down the ski lift line, straight down the mountain, no poles, no nothing. They're just going for it. Having a blast. And here they go. Throw the poles out, get on the skis, go down the mountains, and then go back up. So do it. You know, what has your inner voice, what has your inner knowing, your soul repeatedly been guiding you to that you've been ignoring? Pay attention, listen to it. Play with that idea, it's never too late. Step into the possibility and the passion and the power and the promise of your authentic life, because we're waiting for you to do that. Nobody else can do your authentic life but you. And it will go missing from the rest of us until you do. So please, you know, and I'm in this third half of my life, so you need to hurry up. You know, do look before you leap, but do leap. Do leap. I love what Julia Cameron says. She says, leap and the net will appear. Don't worry about the net. Leap and the net will appear. Trust in that. That's faith. That's faith in who you truly are. That's faith in the Spirit that lives within you and all around you. Be who you are. Be who you were called here to be. Do what brings you joy and passion and enthusiasm. Do what it is that you love to do. Do what it is that you're great at. Do those things, because that is you doing your being. What is truly yours to be and to do is the greatest service that you can give to yourself and to others and to the world. So please say yes to that. You know, Joseph Campbell taught that where your bliss and your talents meet the needs of the world, that is where your purpose lies, and that is where Spirit wants you to be. So be there. You know, we're not limited by our current outer conditions or circumstances. Consciousness can create and move us beyond where we are, beyond any kind of limitations. You have the power of Spirit within you to thrive in any circumstance. Don't worry about the economy and who's doing what to whom and who's getting elected and who's not and who's what. You be who you are. That, I hate to say it, that trumps anything. That's an unfortunate word or name. There's certain things that, yeah, whatever. You know, we're not bound by our current circumstances, our current conditions or situations. Think about this. The worst economy in the history of the United States was the Great Depression. And some of our greatest architectural feats took place during that Great Depression. Things like the Golden Gate Bridge and the Empire State Building took place at a time where we thought we had nothing, where the bottom had totally fallen out. And some of our greatest accomplishments took place then. Because you know what? When it ain't easy and everything's just, you know, you can buy everything and you can just say, hey, I got all kinds of money to throw at stuff, you have to get creative. Get creative. Don't let your creativity atrophy. Fan that flame. Create and express your good and circulate it. Share it with others. Recall, if you will, for a moment, a leap of faith that you've taken. Sometime that you weren't sure what was going to turn out, but you felt compelled and you took that leap of faith. How did that feel? Did you feel powerful in that moment? Feels pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah, it's like, hey. Hey, hey. And then ask yourself, what dreams do you have on hold right now? What dreams are you waiting to act on? Think about those. What are on the back burner for you? Why are you waiting? Ask yourself that. Why am I waiting? Why exactly am I waiting? Why am I waiting? Well, I might fail. Yeah, you might. But you'll learn from that. You'll learn what not to do, and you'll try something else. What could you do today, this week, to move that forward? Do something out of your beingness this week. That's your homework. Do something. Take one small action this week out of your beingness that moves you closer to being more authentically who you are, to bringing one of your dreams to life. Alan Cohen, and this you can put this quote up on the deal here because it's a little bit long. Alan Cohen wrote, "The force of your personal evolution, speaking to you through your spirit, is moving you toward the fulfillment of your dreams. Your role is to move with the strongest energy you feel. When you are true to what you love to do and what you do best, you pave the way to personal satisfaction, success, and service to others. If you give more power and attention to your destiny rather than your history, doors will open in amazing ways." I know that that's absolutely true, and I can't wait to see what all you come up with. Please don't disappoint me. Please don't, because you know you'll never hear the end of it. And that would be disappointing for you. I want to give you an example of somebody that I think of today, and I so honored for really paying attention to those 6 Ps. This was a practitioner from my center in Seattle. He really practiced those 6 Ps and taught me a thing or two. Practice that passion and that purpose and that presence and that power and that path and that promise. John John and I started practitioner studies together. So we were in year 1 together. He'd had a brain injury when he was young, when he was like 18. The ministers and practitioners who were teaching that class determined at the end of Prac 1 that he would not be allowed to go on to year 2. That they didn't believe that because of his brain injury that he would be able to have discernment and be able to do this. So he was not allowed to go on. And every year John reapplied to get into the class, and every year he was turned down at the Seattle church, not at the church I started, but at the big Seattle church. And then some years later, I finished practitioner training, finished ministerial training, and I started a church on the east side of Lake Washington, across from Seattle. And John moved over to my church, and he said, Reverend Suzi, would you let me be in your practitioner class? And I was like, wow. I'm thinking about it, and unsolicited, apparently some people from the other church had heard that he was going to come ask me if he could be in the practitioner class. And unsolicited, I got practitioners and ministers told me, don't do it. He's not able to do this. His brain injury, he can't do it, blah, blah, blah. Don't take him on. You can't this do it. And I was like, wow. First of all, thank you for the unsolicited advice. Second of all, I don't think that's what we teach. I don't think we teach disbelief, do we? I mean, did we change that since I got out of school? And what happened? And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't seem, somehow this just seems way funky on every level. So what I did was I said, John, and I knew he was under the care of several different caregivers. He had a therapist, and he had a neurologist that he worked with, and a hypnotherapist, and whatever. And, a minister from another denomination who also worked with him. I said, if you will give me written permission to speak to all of your caregivers, I want to investigate whether there's any reason why we couldn't do this. So he gave me that permission. I talked to his doctors and various counselors and caregivers, and they said, well, there's really no physiological or emotional or spiritual or psychological reason that he couldn't do this if he's trained. And I'm like, okay. So I said, John, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do it. I'm going to bring you into the class. I said, I want you to know I'm going to be probably harder on you than I am on the rest of the students. We're being watched from across the lake over there. They're watching, waiting for us to fail. I'm not planning on failing, but you're going to have to work hard. And I need the commitment from you that you will follow my guidance and direction. I'm going to give you feedback all along the way. And if at some point I determine that this is not working and it's not going to work out, I will have to have you drop out of the class, and you'll just have to accept that. He said, okay, whatever you say, we'll do it. Well, year 1 and year 2, he was at every class, always prepared for class, consistently turned in his homework on time, unlike all of the other students. And so he passed everything in the training. Then it comes time for the written exam, for the written licensing exam, which is a very lengthy exam. They do it online. So I monitored him while he was doing his test online, and then we sent it in, and 2 or 3 weeks later I get a call from home office, and they said, well, something went haywire and we never got John's exam. It's lost in the ether somewhere. And I, who should have been a little bit spiritually centered by now, went a little bit ballistic. I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to? So I go to John, and John, I have a little bit of bad news. Your test got lost in the thing. And he goes, oh, that's fine, I'll just take it again. I'm like, well, okay, if it were up to me, I'd give you your license right now. Because he was so calm about it. So he does the test again, we make sure it gets in, he passes the test. And I had a little bit of concern about his ability to do oral affirmative prayer. He just wasn't quite as practiced. I said, John, I'm going to ask you not to do your oral panels this year. I'd like you to take this next year. I want you to take an additional year. And I want you to take this next year. I want you to make an appointment every week with one of our practitioners, with me, one of our ministerial students, and you be the practitioner and they be the client. And so you're doing practitioner sessions every week and getting feedback on how you're doing. He says, okay, I'll do it. So he did 3 years, not 2 years of practitioner training. When it came time for his panel, some of the people on his panel were the very people who told me not to take him on. When they came out of that panel, they were in tears. And one of them came up to me and gave me a big hug, and they said, this is one of the best panels I've ever done. That was John. And I got to tell you something. The one person who never stopped believing in himself was John. At some point or other, pretty much everybody else fell out of belief, at least for a moment. but never John. Never John. And so he became a practitioner at my center. He's now a practitioner at another center in the Seattle area, and doing wonderful things. He had the heart and the consciousness and the soul of a practitioner, of someone in service, to be his most authentic self and to give it away. And so that was a teachable moment, not just for John, but for me, and for a whole lot of other people who thought they knew better. And suddenly, the student became the teacher, and the teachers became teachable. And so I thank John for teaching me that lesson of belief in your own passion and purpose and presence and power and path and promise. And I'm eternally grateful to have crossed paths with John. And it was kind of a wonderful thing that we started practitioner training together as students, and we ended practitioner training together, with me as his minister and his teacher, and also his student. So think about that. Think about John. When you falter in your belief, think about John. 10 years he believed, and it paid off. So blessings on your journey of being free in the flow of passion and purpose and power and promise. Begin by embracing the passion and the purpose that's within you, calling to you, and unleashing the power of Spirit within you and all around you, calling you to be the promise. Be the promise of your own fulfillment. So it is.